By the way, before I begin, I have been a venture capitalist for roughly 25 years. And one thing I would love to share with all my brothers and sisters here who are interested in crypto and blockchain and whatnot is that the blockchain is the worst possible way to do just about anything. And I'd love all of you to just really think about that. It is a terrible way to do things, unless. And the unless is you need to meet a few conditions, the customer, the business you're serving. There are very limited cases where a blockchain is an ideal solution. A lot of those are in what I would call the dark and nefarious part of the world, and some are not. But as a venture capitalist over many years, we were always victims of something, the German pronunciation I think is called Einstellung. Einstellung is a great word. What it means is anything you try to solve, anything you try to do, you always try to do it with this thing you have, no matter what. Think of it as a hammer. You're going to fix your car, you got a hammer. You're going to make a cake, you got a hammer. You're going to go to bed, you got a hammer. That's all you have. It's very easy for people in the early stage technology space, particularly with emerging technologies, to get super excited about some platform technique, new type of software. But I would ask all of you who are entrepreneurs, and I assume lots of you are, anytime somebody presents to you an idea about the blockchain, just ask yourself, could I do it easier, cheaper, faster, better, some other way? Because in particular, the problem with the blockchain, and I'm a big fan, obviously. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I spend most of my time working in this space, what I'd call crypto and blockchain. But just about every time I think I've got a great application for the blockchain, it turns out there's a better way to do it without it. So think about the conditions under which you would really, really need it, and then great. There's nothing like it. It's almost magical what you can do in a decentralized way. But if you're trying to force fit an existing business into a blockchain-centric business, it must meet those conditions. It's better, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's more convenient. So I'm going to go quickly through this because some of you might be aware of what we do at Wax, and some of you might even play video games. How many people here, by the way, do play video games? Many? All right. So Wax is an attempt to do something much better that my company does really well now. We allow people to trade virtual items that you acquire in a video game. And it turns out, I think this is a pretty darn good use case for the blockchain. So let me go. The first thing you got to know about my business is we sell skins. And not baby skins, but skins are virtual items that are unique, that people love to put within a game to change their avatar, right? And they're traded, they're highly coveted, and this gives you an example here of what people love to do with their skin. They love to paint it. They like to paint it because they like to express their individuality. And in video games, that's very, very true. All of these are examples of that. Now, the key thing with my particular type of video game item is they're unique. And even to video game publishers, they sometimes are shocked because not all of them use these things we call skins. A skin is a virtual item, but it's unique. There's only one of those in the whole world. You guys have probably all played a lot with different virtual items, whatnot, but they're mostly commodities. Ours are unique. And because they're unique, by the way, they have a lot of value, perceived value. This is another example of how people try to change what they look like. In the digital world, it's a lot easier to morph who you are, what you look like, and we accommodate that. Here is a game. Anyone familiar with PUBG? All right? It's one of the most popular PC-based video games in the world today. One of the things that makes it popular is you can dress up your character in very cool stuff. PUBG got to the 1-yard line. What I mean is PUBG figured out all the cool stuff you can do with the virtual item, wrap your character around it, allow it to be traded. The one thing they didn't do is they didn't make it unique. They made it rare, which is good. This thing will cost you that code about $500, So they made it rare, but they didn't make it unique. Had they made it unique, they'd make a lot more money. This is an example of I believe that's a Dragunov rifle. So that's a standard issue rifle in a game called CSGO. This is that same rifle with a paint job. Now, the thing that's cool about this paint job, there is no other rifle in the world with that particular paint job. And it turns out in online video games, which, by the way, are really, they're like countries. League of Legends has 100 million people across the world who play it. World of Warcraft, maybe 50 million. CSGO at any given time, maybe 1 million across the world. My company merchandises these items. So it gives people really powerful visual tools to look at the item, because if you're going to pay for that, and by the way, when you find out how much it costs, you're going to say, wow, I'd like all those tools to evaluate it. If you're going to pay for it, you want to make sure it is cool. All of the reasons why people buy these items comes down to really human nature. We like to have social status. We like to stand out in our games. In particular, things that are unique, of course, things that are unique are cooler than things that everybody else can get. And the video game industry, which is at the cutting edge of so much, has really been at the cutting edge of digitally allowing people to do things that make them stand out. Here is one we sold a while ago. That item is, $37,000 or 4 BTC. Now, it used to be about 10 BTC, but of course BTC went up and then dropped. But when you start to think about buying, and by the way, I want to make a point. You're not buying the rifle. You are buying the paint job. That's all you're getting here. It's a digital image. I know that there is no video here. What this connotes, though, is that people get very excited when they win these things. This is an adult man who is really, really excited about getting his skin. I like to be in businesses where people get that excited about the products we give them. He actually, that's like a paper. It's actually not Danny DeVito. But it's interesting you notice that. And this all comes down to a lot of biology. Video game industry is really, really good at figuring out what makes people want to buy a lot more stuff. A lot of good retailers are as well. Getting back to my company and Opskins, so remember what we do. We have virtual items. They're unique. They work on what would be the equivalent of private blockchains. You buy them back and forth, and people love to trade them. Our business has done very, very well since we launched what has a blockchain-esque element to it. And I'll explain in a second. The thing about these virtual items, they are so expensive and they're so fungible that there's a lot of theft in the industry. When you want to trade an item with another person, you are exposed to counterparty risk. You have the money, I have the item. What do? You send me the item, I might pay you, or maybe not. So the industry, which does about $50 billion worth of transactions today, is highly constrained because people are afraid to trade with people they don't know. That's why they use a middleman. By the way, what's blockchain trying to do? Eliminate the middleman. But in this case, the middleman actually plays a very important role. This is only there to show you it's been about 20 years where these virtual items have been being traded. What the blockchain allows us to do is that bottom rank. There are 6 things that allow you to be a killer platform for trading virtual items. The bottom 3 there are really important, but they're also ones that are particularly useful for a blockchain solution. And by the way, why do I care about this market? I'm a venture capitalist. I care about it because there's about 15 million people who are actively using cryptos. There's 400 million people who actively trade virtual items. And what is fascinating is the two crowds barely know each other. You know, very few people who trade virtual items really know what a Bitcoin is. And very few people in the crypto space understand there's a giant business with exchanges where people are trading billions of dollars of virtual items back and forth, and they seem a lot like cryptos. So at Opskins, we decided to build a blockchain that was tailored for the unique properties of buying and selling virtual items. I won't go into all of it, but people would say to me, why are you building a blockchain? By the way, that's the last frickin' thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to build a blockchain. I wanted to use an existing chain. The problem is that, unfortunately, most blockchains are experiments. They can't handle the scale. Everyone heard of CryptoKitties? CryptoKitties, right? It's a shitty game, but it uses cryptos, and they produce little unique cat-faced cryptos. We're the largest exchange for CryptoKitty buying and selling. That has crashed the Ethereum network. One little game company with one little app crashed the Ethereum network. These things are not yet built for internet scale. That's what we decided we would do, tailored for our industry. And along the way, of course, one of the things I always think about is, why should you own the token? We use delegated proof of stake. And with delegated proof of stake, people can actually become the middleman. And by becoming the middleman and having a smart contract that says, I've posted $500,000 bond of our tokens wax, you can then be trusted to take hold of the items and pass it on to the guy who paid for it. Because if you don't, the smart contract automatically fulfills the payment. So it's actually a very good use of the blockchain, because having one middleman is never great. We can get subject to DDoSes, or we may just not have the payment methods. Something in all of crypto that I didn't even appreciate until I started running Opskins was this. To do international commerce, you have to operate in a lot of different fiats. We operate in 50 different fiats because there's people all over the world. And unfortunately, it's a pain in the ass to manage bank accounts with 50 different fiats. I'm not going to jump into there. Those are advisors, those are our partners, and that's Wax. Last thing I'll say is our blockchain actually is going to use a smart contract. The smart contract does one simple function initially. It operates as a digital escrow agent. And the hardest thing to do with smart contracts today is actually use them. Because as a venture capitalist, when I look at what needs to happen down the road to make something take off for mass market adoption of cryptocurrencies, all the stuff we're building here, it needs to be convenient and simple. The one thing cryptos are not are convenient and simple. So we're putting a lot of time into trying to make it so simple that maybe the video gamers don't even know they're using cryptocurrency, because they probably don't need to. And they certainly don't need to know that it's a smart contract. The only thing they need to know is when they send their item to this internet thingy, it holds their item, and it always pays them when somebody buys the item. That, I think, an escrow type function is a good use of a smart contract. So that's Wax. Thank you for listening.